Alright guys, welcome back to JBSR Plays It. So, yeah, I know, the last episode didn't actually go up on time. It's not my fault. I was uploading it for Thursday, kind of the early evening, late afternoon, early evening, and never actually went. I had to try and upload it about 4 times before it finally took, and that didn't happen until Friday night, so... You know, I was wrong on my pick. I was trying to get it up before that the Thursday night game, where I picked the Texans to win at home, and you could say I was wrong, or you could say I was totally wrong. And I know the score looks like it was a close game, but it wasn't. They came from behind. You know, it's another one of those comebacks, another one of those teams only playing one half of football, or in the Colts' case, the box score is not lying. They scored 24 points in the first quarter. And by halftime, it was 27-14. And at one point, it was 27-21. They let this team back in a big way. And that's not a good thing. Andrew Luck looked really good. I don't care. I know some people say he sort of looked average, even though, you know, and saying the stats kind of are overinflated. 370 yards, 3 touchdowns, and a pick. I think most teams in the league would take that on any given Sunday. Look across the field. Ryan Fitzpatrick, 15-23, 212 yards, 1 touchdown. I don't know how many picks. Don't tell me they wouldn't take 370 and 3 touchdowns. I'd take that with 3 picks, honestly. Maybe that's a little bit of an exaggeration, you know. But it's funny. It was advertised as Andrew Luck versus J.J. Watt, and then it was Andrew Luck versus J.J. Watt. It was astounding, and not taking anything away, you know. Andre Johnson had a pretty good game. Arian Foster had a really good game. T.Y. Hilton had an unbelievable game. 1 yard short of the franchise record for yards, which, by the way, was set in 1950. Yeah, that's one record. Can't believe that hasn't been broken yet, especially with Peyton Manning playing. He's literally just one stumble forward on a catch from having the record, the franchise record. But, you know, really, you know, entertaining game, especially when you're used to the 46-13 shellackings that seem to be happening on Thursdays. Now it's sort of like, okay, even though it was a come from behind, it still made it exciting. I mean, a lot of football games, I mean, if you think about it, a lot of people think that these Giants-Patriots Super Bowls we had a couple years ago, when we had both of them, and everyone says, oh, they were great games. No, they were boring for the first 3 quarters, and in the final quarter it got excited. It's sort of the same mentality here. You know, it's just, I don't know. Although apparently Pat McAfee, I didn't see the game. I listened, you know, my entire knowledge of football games comes from reading the box scores, reading the write-up at the end of the games, and then I've listened to a bunch of podcasts, the NFL podcast from Grantland, Around the League, or Around the NFL now. You know, I listen to those, so that's sort of where I get all my information. Or, you know, like Mike and Mike, Colin Coward, stuff like that. So, apparently Pat McAfee had himself one hell of a game with the on-the-fly onside kick, which sounds amazing. It's just... I don't know, man. These Colts, I kept saying it was Andrew Luck and a bunch of scrubs, and I'm starting to think maybe this team is a little bit better. This might be a team that Peyton Manning could have won a Super Bowl with. Andrew Luck is not Peyton Manning yet, but he's getting pretty close. So I don't know if this is a Super Bowl contending team, but there's no reason to think they can't be. You know, well, except for that whole Trent Richardson is still your leading running back. I still don't understand why. It seems like every time you look at the box score, Ahmad Bradshaw has a better yards per attempt, and this and that, or whatever the average carry. I don't. I know you gave him a first rounder for Trent Richardson. Let it go. Just stupid trades happen. Yesterday was the whatever anniversary of the Herschel Walker trade. But yeah, I honestly think that it's their running game that concerns me. Other than that, I think their defense is playing pretty well. Andrew Luck, one of the top 5 quarterbacks in the league right now. If you're hearing any funny sounds, I have the baby monitor on. This is going to be a recurring theme in every Let's Play I do. So it's just something that's going to happen. And Houston, they're back to 3-2, or what are they, 3-3 now? Yeah, they didn't have a bye, so they're 3-3. There's no reason to really be alarmed because they still have J.J. Watt. This team might be, started off strong, but now coming back to earth a little bit. 9-7 isn't really out of the question because they still have the Titans and the Jaguars on their schedule, and I believe that's their first first division game they've played. Yeah, so they've got Pittsburgh next week, at Tennessee, versus Philly, at Cleveland, versus Cincinnati, versus Tennessee, at Jacksonville, at Indy, versus Baltimore, and end off the season at Jacksonville. Realistically, they should be able to go at least 4-2, even if at Indy they lose. Should be able to go 4-2 against the division without that. That already puts them at 7 wins, so all they really have to do... Pittsburgh doesn't look that good. That might be a win there. Cleveland, you never know what you're going to get out of them. Baltimore, who knows, especially by that point. It's not another realm possibility for them to get a couple of those other games and get up to 9-7. So, if I'm the Texans, I'm not worried. Excuse me. Dropping 3 straight, probably not the best strategy, but it's not bad. Indy... The problem is they've already bolstered their schedule. They've already played Jacksonville and Tennessee. They have Pittsburgh as well. They've got the Redskins. It's... Indy's a really good team, and I don't know if they're playing for first round bye. Then again, I don't know who else is going to challenge them for it. Because the Bengals came back to earth in a big way. And, Chargers and Broncos. I wish, a couple of years ago they were talking about redoing the wild card rule. Those are some teams that might end up being a 14-2 and a 13-3 team coming out of that division. So first round bye may not be out of the question because AFC East, that looks like a 9-7 team's going to win it, and AFC North, who even knows? 10-6, 11-5. So the Colts, 11-5, 12-4 may not be out of the realm of possibility for them. So I guess we'll see what happens. So moving on to the Sunday games. Sometimes I feel like I should have transitional sounds. Like, how a lot of podcasts do it? This is pretty much a podcast. I've said this before. I'll actually start up the game now, so because you guys have literally been staring at a blank screen for however long this has been. Sometimes I think that just get some transitional sounds sort of cover up when I have to walk away to prepare a bottle or something like that. But so Sunday's games. First up, and again, I check. My schedule. I always check it up on ESPN. So the reason why I always read off the Bills game first is because it automatically puts my team's game up to the top of whatever the time slot is. And because the Bills, no one really wants to see the Bills play. They're always 1 o'clock on a Sunday. So, Patriots at Bills. First off, you already know the drill. I'm picking Buffalo. This, of every Bills game so far this year, this is the first one where I pick them, and I genuinely am concerned whether or not they can win it. I don't think the Patriots, last week was necessarily some sort of breakthrough, and sort of this is the Patriots team we're going to see the rest of the year. I think it was the Patriots are human beings, despite what people may think. And if you say stuff to piss them off, they're going to respond. Because they're also a veteran organization. So you piss them off and try and call them out and being garbage, they're going to respond to that. So I think the Patriots but they're 3-point favorites. There's a there's a reason for that. There's also a reason why they're only 3-point favorites and not 10-point favorites. It's because the Bills are going to match up pretty well with them. The Bills have, Marcel Darius last week was a beast. Kyle Williams should be back. Jerry Hughes had 2 sacks. Mario Williams, I think he had a sack as well. Their defensive line has picked up right where they left off last year. And the Patriots, their big issue so far has been their offensive line. The Bills have the ability to pick that apart and really make Tom Brady look more like the quarterback he was against Kansas City versus the one he was against Cincinnati. So, the Bills have a chance this week. And this is sort of a big game for the Bills more than the Patriots. Because the Patriots lose here, they'll be fine. The Bills have an easy schedule from here on out, but it's a matter of you're trying to dethrone the Patriots from the division lead, so you need to beat the Patriots to do that. They need to win it. They need to try and get at least one. And this is their home game. So if you're going to do it, you're going to do it here. Because I don't know why these schedule makers always make the Bills the home team early in the season. I guess it's because they know that the Bills just aren't going to be contending down the stretch. But this year it might be different. But I think if the Bills can beat the Patriots here, they got a good chance at 5-1 in the division. Because they've already beat the Dolphins once. The Jets look horrendous. Geno Smith proving that he is not a leader, which is important. E.J. Manuel got benched because of his on-field play, but he was also huge in that Week 1 win against Chicago. His talk that really fired up the team before the game, both pregame and just sort of like before they left in the hotel lobby, I guess. So he showed some leadership skills off the field. Geno Smith has shown none of that. So the Jets are in a bad way. So, I mean, it's a 2-horse race, and no matter who wins this week, because a lot of people say, oh, well, the Colts just clinched their division last night. And that's not necessarily true, but you can sort of see where that would come into play, because now they're already 3-0 in their division and beat the Texans in Houston. I don't think the Patriots are going to be winning the division if they win this game. I don't think you just hand it to them, but I think it's a lot easier for the Patriots to overcome a loss than the Bills in this scenario. And that's mostly because the Bills have home field in this week, and just because it's the Patriots' division to lose. It's been that way for the better part of the entirety of the 2000s. So I think it's a bigger game for Buffalo. And it also sets the tone. If they win here, even if they only lose by a point, it sort of sets the tone. It's like, okay, you know what? We're the big dogs. We can do this. And it's that confidence building. So we'll see. This is an interesting game. And then we go from that to what will be the worst game on the entire schedule this week. And guess what? We get another one later on. The Jaguars at the Titans. This one's really tough to pick, but I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to pick Jacksonville in this because the Titans look terrible, that Week 1 surprise notwithstanding. Ken Wisenhut's a good coach. I think I said it in the last episode. I really like him as a coach, but here we go again. Here comes the QB carousel. Zach Mettenberger might be starting because Jake Locker, I think, is out. I think Jake Locker's time in Tennessee should be coming to a close. And considering his injury history, I don't know that he's necessarily going to get another job on another roster. But then again, I think Trent Edwards was still, up until this past season, I think he was still a backup in Oakland. So that might not be true. But yeah, I'm gonna pick Jacksonville in this because I think Tennessee, it's the QB thing. Blake Bortles, I'm kind of curious to see how he turns out. I think the Jaguars' defense is a little better than maybe they seem right now. And I think the Titans are just garbage. They just lost Michael Roos for the season. Taylor Lewan is going to fill in for them. Andy Levitre, the guy who I was pissed off when he left Buffalo for Tennessee, has looked terrible this year. So that offensive line doesn't really look good. This is just two bad teams. Like these two in Oakland, those are your three bottom feeders. You got other teams down at the bottom, but like the Jets, as bad as they've looked, I don't want to say that they're terrible. Like I don't want to say they're one of the worst teams in the league, and that's entirely because they've shown flashes. So this is definitely the bottom dweller bowl, and I've spent way too much time talking about them. So moving on, we got the Ravens at Tampa Bay, and Eric, you'll be excited about this one. I'm picking Tampa Bay, but probably not for the reasons you think. This is still, I'm going to pick against Baltimore every single week. Tampa Bay's looks scrappy with Mike Glennon at quarterback, though. So this would be something if I was contemplating an upset pick. This would be one of the ones I go with. Would be Tampa Bay. Because who else am I looking at the schedule? I mean, there's not really a lot of upset picks from here on out. Like, not legitimate ones, because there's a bunch of teams, Are you going to take the Raiders against the Chargers? Really? Cowboys over the Seahawks? Maybe. Other than that, I mean, there's not really upsets. There's a lot of evenly matched teams. So this is probably something if I was looking for an upset pick, I would have taken anyways. I'm not 100% in love with Baltimore. And I just find it funny. I'm looking at Tampa Bay right now. And they're 1-4, and they're in this division race. And that's a scary, scary thought. Now, I think it'll look a little better afterwards, but you got 2-3 Atlanta. You got 3-2 Carolina. You could be looking at if Tampa Bay wins this week, they're at 2-4. And then you'll have three. You could potentially have 3-3 teams in front of them. I don't know. I think New Orleans is playing at home, or are they on a bye? Either way, they're looking at being only a game out if things fall their way this week. Tampa Bay is still very much a contender, and that just shows some of these divisions. I think, I don't know necessarily 9-7 will win this division. I think it might be 10-6, but I think it's just because we know what the talent is there. But if 9-7 won this division, I wouldn't be shocked. I don't think it's going to be a 7-9 season. I don't think we're that bad. But I still, if Tampa Bay wins this division at 9-7, would anybody really be surprised the way everything else has gone? I think right now, if I had to pick one of these four teams to win the division, it would be Carolina. Because I don't think you're going to do any better than 8-8 out of Atlanta and New Orleans, because I think both of those teams will end up going 0-8 on the road at this rate. Doesn't matter who they play; they're just going to lose. Like it does not matter who they play. It seems like they'll just lose. So, yeah, I think Carolina is the best looking team out of this division. And that's not good. Because I didn't think that team would contend for a playoff spot this year. So, your 2014 NFC South, ladies and gentlemen. Next up Denver at the Jets. I'm taking Denver for obvious reasons. What's the point spread? Denver minus 9.5. I think I would take that. I literally, even though I think I might even take that. That's just how bad the Jets have looked basically over the last 3 weeks. Like the first week they won, the second week I think that was Green Bay where they blew it in the final seconds. And then from there it's just been garbage. Yeah. I think this is just a good game for Denver to if they got any rust or anything to work off, or they want to, try out a couple game plan things here or there. Basically, just think of it as a bonus bye week, Which for Denver, basically, they only play half a game each week anyways, because they just go up big and then sort of coast. Maybe by halftime, put Brock Osweiler in and see what you got out of him. Just stuff like that. I might be, this could end up being a freaking 34-27 game, just because I'm saying this shit about it. But I am serious. Brock Osweiler is their number 2 quarterback, right? Like, I don't want you to put in the number 3 guy and then have to be without Peyton Manning in case shit goes down. But yeah, Denver has that. Next up, Detroit Lions at the Minnesota Vikings. Now, there's no Calvin Johnson. I feel like that's being a little overblown. Obviously, Calvin Johnson is maybe the best wide receiver in the game. I think there's actually his competition starting to sneak up on him. Not because of a detriment to his quality of game, even though this season he's just been injured the whole time. But I think there's other really, really good wide receivers like Antonio Brown and A.J. Green, Julio Jones, Jordy Nelson. I mean, there's a ton of really good wide receivers. So Calvin Johnson, I still think I would take over anybody else. But the gap is closing. Losing him sucks, but you still have Golden Tate. And everyone's like, oh, and Reggie Bush is out too. Who cares? Like, it's Reggie Bush. It's not like, if Dallas loses DeMarco Murray, I pick against him every single time. The Lions lose Reggie Bush, and it's like, all right, well, he does a couple things, but, really, is that going to make or break you? Is that going to ruin... Wow, I saw that guy coming right up the middle, and I was still holding out for a long pass. Is that going to ruin your life? I think not. But, yeah. So I think I'm still going to pick Detroit in this. I want to pick Minnesota. I really do. Because Teddy Bridgewater should be playing. But Ndamukong Suh is still the defensive tackle. Nick Fairley is another defensive tackle for them. Their defense is still pretty good. So I think the Lions still should be able to take care of business. I think it'll be close. The line is Minnesota -1. Does this count as my upset pick? I feel like it doesn't. I feel like the Vikings not really going to have home... Well, no, wait. Vikings play outside now. Never mind. I was going to say they're both dome teams. They're not a dome right now. Yeah, but I'm still picking... I'm still going with Detroit. But it is going to be close. 20-19 with the -1. That doesn't sound out of the question. Next game up, you get the Panthers at Cincinnati. I am taking Cincinnati. So they're all my obligation picks out of the way. I wish I had taken New England last week and gone against the obligation. I knew New England was going to stomp Cincinnati. But I think Cincinnati will bounce back. This isn't a primetime game. It's a 1 o'clock Sunday game. So they don't do good with the lights on them. That's, sucks when the postseason comes. I'm not going to bank money, or I'm not going to bet on Cincinnati winning the Super Bowl or anything. Let's wait for them to get out of the first round first. She just bolted it to him. He was wide open. I don't understand why all these guys are faster. But I think in this game, they should be able to take care of business and bounce back pretty well. Cam Newton's still learning how to be a pocket pass. The line is -6.5. Don't take that. Hell no, don't take that. If you're betting on it, take Carolina -6.5. Yeah. But, I think they'll win. They're not the type of team that'll come out and just blow out a team because they're pissed off. But they'll respond well. There's a reason Marvin Lewis is still the head coach over there. He's still a good head coach. May not be a great head coach, may not be a future Hall of Fame head coach, but there's no reason to think that they can't win this game. Next up, now here comes the interesting game. Pittsburgh Steelers at Cleveland Browns. This is an interesting game for me because I think that the Browns are an exciting team to watch. And I think the Steelers are disappointing me because I thought they'd be better than this. After sort of watching them the first game or two, I thought, okay, you know what? Chicago has switched from historically being a very defensive team to now offense heavy. Pittsburgh's sort of going through the same transition. It's not going great for either one of those teams. A major shift in culture, and because you're not talking about the Bills have sort of bounced back and forth. If you remember the early 2000s, when Tom Brady emerged as the Patriot, led the Patriots to a Super Bowl, Drew Bledsoe had to get traded, and he got shipped off to the Buffalo Bills, and he ended up making the Pro Bowl and throwing, I think, for like 4,500 yards or something like that. That was, Eric Moulds and Peerless Price with over 1,000 yards each. Offensive juggernaut. And then a few years later, when they beat the Patriots opening day 31-0, Drew Bledsoe, of course, long gone. I believe that was Lossman starting. Or maybe it was Kelly Holcomb. That was a weird period where it was a new. It's been a weird period where there's a new starting quarterback for the Bills every 9 games. 31-0, and that was defense. That was Sam Adams as the acquisition from Baltimore, and Takeo Spikes, and I think that was Angelo Crowell was starting to break out around that time, and that was London Fletcher in the middle, and Nate Clements. I think Antoine Winfield was already gone. That was a very big defensive effort. And offense, it hasn't really gone. Ryan Fitzpatrick, I guess, a little bit. It was more offense. But slightly shifting back and forth like that. Going from kind of being an offense-heavy team to kind of a defense-heavy team, every 3 or 4 years or so, makes a little more sense. But when you're the Bears and when you're the Steelers and you're talking decades and decades of defensive dominance, and magically you want to turn into a spread offense with a freaking 4,500-yard quarterback, that's tough to do. And it's happened over the last few years, but it's tough to do. So I'm not a big fan of this Pittsburgh team right now because they are sort of a team in transition, a team without an identity, really. And the Cleveland Browns are just scrappy. They really are. They're somehow finding a way to win. And, Cleveland's the favorite in this game. And I'm not going to pick against that, I don't think. I think I'm interested to see after the season. And a lot of this still has a lot of time to remain to be seen. But Brian Hoyer has looked pretty good. I don't think he's going to make a Pro Bowl appearance necessarily, but he might be able to get you 3,500 yards, maybe 25 touchdowns and 9 picks by the end of the season. Does that sound out of the question? He's on pace right now for 4,000 and 24 touchdowns. So, I don't think that's out of the question. But he's going to be a free agent at the end of the year. And they got Johnny Manziel on the bench. Now, I'm not a Johnny Manziel fan. The kind of headaches he caused after he got drafted, you're looking at the face of your franchise. And I understand that you're young and you're going to do some dumb shit. It's just what teams do. But a diva attitude out of a quarterback, the only one who's even slightly pulled that off was Phillip Rivers. And he never really went to this extent. He's still kind of like, one of the good old, the Southern boys or whatever. He's just really cocky. But a whole diva. I mean, what are you're talking about McMahon for the Bears back in the 80s. You don't really have the diva quarterbacks that end up working very well. And it's not like Menzel, the toast of Texas A&M. A college football program that isn't exactly storied by any means. Good enough, obviously, they went over to the SEC. But that was also at a point when the BCS was reigning supreme and everyone wanted a power 16, 18, 20-team conference and tried to get 2 BCS bids. And Texas A&M was just good enough looking to get out of the Big 12. So, it's not like he was the big man on campus at, like, Michigan or something like that. He was just really good quarterback. Comparable to Tim Tebow, I guess. Tebow just had the championship. And look at the big difference between those two players. If you gave me a choice right now, I would take Tim Tebow as my starting quarterback over Johnny Manziel, and I wouldn't even think about it. But Brian Hoyer, you got to think he's going to be gone after the year. Unless the team wins a Super Bowl with him at quarterback, you got to figure even with a division win and, one and done in the playoffs, maybe even getting a playoff win and losing in the second round. Because realistically, that's best case scenario for this team. You got to figure Hoyer's gone. And all I'm thinking as a Buffalo Bills fan is I will gladly take him. Because the Bills do not have a first-round pick. And if things go well this season, their second-round pick won't be until later in the second round. You're not going to get your hands on a lot of the, you'll be lucky to find one of the marquee quarterbacks. And I know, exceptions are made. But that number 1 overall quarterback, that first-round quarterback, is not overrated. Roethlisberger, Eli Manning, Phillip Rivers, that was a class of 2004. All first-round guys. And J.P. Lossman, we won't talk about him. You've got, and I think Matt Schaub was even part of that for those few years. He was like a 4th or 5th rounder, but let me just run through the division. I mean, Tom Brady's obviously the exception, but, E.J. Manuel, first-round pick. Ryan Tannehill, first-round pick. Geno Smith, early second-round pick. Andrew Luck, Peyton Manning. Tony Romo's undrafted. Ryan Fitzpatrick, 5th-round pick, but he's not really that good. A lot of, Aaron Rodgers, first-round pick. Alex Smith, number 1 overall pick. You can get a quarterback in the later rounds. But for a team with playoff aspirations, you can get, Andrew Luck come out as the number 1 overall pick. You can get Joe Flacco coming in the middle of the first round. Matt Ryan coming as the number 2 or 3 overall pick. You can get these guys and have them perform amazingly in the beginning. But it's not often you're going to get a Russell Wilson who comes out his rookie season and just absolutely dominates. That's not going to happen that often, especially not for a playoff-ready team, which the Bills at the other 21 starters look like. So, I mean, if I'm the Bills, I'm seeing Brian Hoyer, and I'm like, yeah, at the very least, if he gives us, 2 or 3 good years, worthwhile investment. But, yeah, so I'll take Cleveland in this game. And I'm sorry, everything's going to come back to the Bills. The game's tomorrow. I'm excited. It's kind of a big deal. Next up, we got the Packers at the Dolphins. And a lot of people are taking the Dolphins in this game, and I don't know why. I really don't understand why. I get the bye week. Aaron Rodgers is looking like the Aaron Rodgers we were expecting the whole time. The Dolphins are still that team that couldn't find a linebacker, right? Like, they were the ones going to other teams' practice squads and basically could lift their entire starting 3 off of there. Like, this is still that same team, right? I don't know who came back from injury, and I get that Cameron Wake is really good. But besides him, I can see Aaron Rodgers is picking this goddamn team apart. So yeah, I'm taking Green Bay in this. And that would put Green Bay and Detroit both at 4-2. But still, the division would be wide open. Because if not, it puts the Packers at 4-2, and then you could have 3 other teams at 3-3 behind them. This division is far from decided. As good as Green Bay has looked. Next up, you have San Diego Chargers at the Oakland Raiders. The line is San Diego by 7.5. I would take that bet. Absolutely, I would take that bet. So I'm taking San Diego. Tony Sperano is the head coach of the Raiders right now. So expect Darren McFadden and some Wildcat. I know that joke's been made 100 times, and I don't really care. Phillip Rivers. People are saying that we should be looking at DeMarco Murray as an MVP candidate, and we should be looking at J.J. Watt as an MVP candidate. And I think there's more to J.J. Watt as the MVP than there is to DeMarco Murray, as good as DeMarco Murray has looked. But I think right now I'd say Phillip Rivers. I'd say Phillip Rivers, J.J. Watt, Andrew Luck, DeMarco Murray. I'd say those are my MVP candidates. It's early in the season. You never know. Aaron Rodgers is starting to come on. Eli's starting to come on. I mean, I know Eli for MVP, but it might not be that absurd. So you never know. But I'm not buying Raiders having any chance at this. So, yeah, absolutely. Chargers all the way. And Oliver there, their running back. I'm going to root for him. He's already the season leader in rushing yards. That just shows how bad running backs are. But a University of Buffalo guy. I support every Buffalo team in existence. So, it's weird. Like, in NFL, I have one team. And then I guess if I had a secondary team, it would probably be the Texans. Just because they're a newer team. It used to be the Packers because I was a big Brett Favre fan. Excuse me. And you would think it may be the Chargers because LaDainian Tomlinson is one of my favorite players of all time. I'm wearing his jersey right now. But, you know, in basketball, it's the Mavericks, and I've only recently decided that because I've only just started paying attention to basketball. And I'm just really a Mark Cuban fan. I can give a shit about the team. Baseball, I'm a Rays fan because I always rooted for the Devil Rays because I'm surrounded by either Yankee or Red Sox fans, and I hated them both. And rooting for the Devil Rays pissed everyone off. And then they became the Rays and became good. And I guess my backup team in there would probably be the Angels because that's who I grew up rooting for because of Angels in the Outfield, which is probably a terrible movie by today's standards. But Joseph Gordon-Levitt, or whatever his fucking name is, I always get it wrong. He's in that, which is weird because he was like 6. Hockey, I'm a Sabres fan through and through. I guess that's the only one where I will root for the Bruins. That's the only home team I'll really root for. I'm not really a Bruins fan, per se. But college football, I think I root for like 5 or 6 different teams. And it's mostly because the underdog in that is so much easier to root for in college football. You know, Mississippi State and Ole Miss. Yeah, let's go for them. Just because of all the SEC teams were either of those ones you were expecting to come out swinging. But, you know, I root for the University of Buffalo. You know, the MAC conference in general. UMass, which is the campus, is like a 30-minute drive from here. You know, that's who I'm going to root for as another one of the teams because that's local. And I figure I can be a homer about college teams because you never know if I'm actually going to know someone on that team. There's Division 2, I believe, is AIC, or is it Division 3? I think it's Division 3. That's right around the corner, but I don't pay enough attention to them. I root for Wisconsin because, again, I was a Packers fan. I think I went through middle school kind of wishing I could move to Wisconsin, and now I realize what a terrible idea that would be. And then, I'm going to root for some of the underdogs. I'm always going to root for the underdogs. I rooted for Boise State. I rooted for Utah, TCU, Hawaii for that weird stretch. Nevada. I'm just going to root for some of these, off teams that should not be contending and yet are somehow, some way. So, college football, I have a million teams. So if I'm rooting for someone, just let me go with it. And I'm going to root for North Texas because that's Eric's team. And that's the one thing where it's sort of I remember North Texas going 0-12 or something 5 years in a row. I feel like I'm exaggerating that. But I'm looking at UMass. I believe they're on... this will be year number 3 of them going 0-12. So maybe that's not out of the question. Maybe they'll win. Oh, no, wait. I think they won a game last year. Never mind. They just came up from Division 2. That's why they're so bad. They're just coming up. But yeah, so I'm going to root for a bunch of college football teams. NFL, you'll see me. I root for the underdog. I'm rooting for the Royals right now. Actually, in general, I think any team in the World Series, except for maybe the Cardinals, I'd root for, which is weird because the Giants and Cardinals have won, 4 out of the last 8 or something like that. I think the National League team, whoever comes out of that, is going to win it. Because I think if the Royals make it to the World Series, they're going to be exhausted because they just won last night. They've won 5 straight in the postseason, but 4 of those have gone to extra innings. They've got to be exhausted by now. And it's sort of like when the Colorado Rockies went to the World Series way back. It was that 2007 against the Red Sox. They should not have made the playoffs. And then they ran through the playoffs, got to the World Series, and then got swept because they were just worn out. Their adrenaline only carried them so far. So I'm going to root for the underdogs. And that's why I'm looking at a lot of teams, and not this game, but the next game, you'll see it, where I definitely want to root for some of these underdogs. Why is the Lions' run defense in Madden so terrible? What is happening right now? Why did Bobby Rainey just bust for 59 yards? And then a couple plays ago, Doug Martin, 43 yards right there. I feel like there was another one before that, or was it? Where are you? 39 yards for... whatever. So next up, we got Chicago at Atlanta. I'm taking Atlanta. I think Atlanta's going to go 8-8, and they're going to go 8-0 at home and 8-0 on the road. And I think the same thing will happen with New Orleans, who apparently are not playing this week. So, good news for Tampa Bay. These teams both are eerily similar. The difference is Matt Ryan is a better quarterback than Jay Cutler, who, again, like I said, the first podcast I did, when I picked the Bills to beat to beat Chicago, it was entirely because I don't like Jay Cutler. I still don't. So, yeah, I think, I feel safe in that Atlanta pick. I mean, if Chicago wins, it wouldn't surprise me. I don't think Chicago, at least with Chicago, you know what you're getting. You're not going to get surprised by Chicago. They're just going to kind of disappoint, and sometimes they'll win and sometimes they'll lose. But Atlanta, and like I said, who knows? These are teams that could either be looking, staring 7 or 9 at the face by the time the end of the season comes, or they could be wild card contenders. They have the potential to go either way, and I wouldn't be surprised with either of them. Next up, and speaking of my underdogs that I root for, and this is one that I said it last week, or the last episode, I really don't want to, but the Dallas Cowboys at 4-1 at the 3-1 Seahawks. I'm picking Seattle in this game because I'm not bold enough to pick against the Seahawks at home until they show a reason for me to do that. And Russell Wilson on Monday Night Football, I've said this ever since he was drafted, because I never really knew much about him, because I don't really pay a lot of attention to college football. I pay attention to the teams more so than individual players. Like, you hear about Heisman frontrunners, but that's about all I really know about it. But when Russell Wilson, when the draft rolled by, and he got taken, or they were talking about him, I think probably around the second round is when they started talking about him. And then they're like, oh, he's 5'9" or 5'10" or whatever he is. So he's not much bigger than me. And, you know, he's a scrambler, and he runs around, and he does a lot with his feet, and he can make big plays on the run. And in my head, I might be one of the few, but as a Buffalo Bills fan, and yes, it's coming back to that again, I'm going to see, I think next week's podcast, I'm going to make every single game connect to the Bills just to piss you guys off further. My first thought when they started describing an undersized quarterback scrambling around, throwing the ball deep, and making magic happen, you know where I'm going with this. Doug Flutie. Ever since Jim Kelly retired, everyone's talked about, oh, the Bills have had difficulty finding a quarterback, which is not necessarily true. We've come across them near the end of their careers, and we just move away from them too quickly. Doug Flutie made magic happen. Literally, he got his own cereal brand out of it. He was a lot of fun. Well, I still own a Doug Flutie jersey to this day. It's a Puma brand, which shows how long ago that was. That Puma was the guys who made their jerseys, but it's sort of, it's not comfortable to wear anymore. It's sort of worn out. All of my jerseys are sort of worn out because Reebok, all of that kind of went to shit towards the end. My Eric Moulds jersey from from the early 2000s still looks brand new, but my Fred Jackson jersey that I bought 2 years ago, the numbers are gone. But so yeah, my comparison went to Doug Flutie, and watching him now and watching him really progress, and everyone keeps saying, "Oh, this is sort of like what we thought Michael Vick was going to be." I don't want Michael Vick involved in this conversation because I never really liked Michael Vick because he wasn't a quarterback. He was a running back who lined up in the wrong position. He had that one magical year in Philly where he sort of figured it out. But other than that, he's always sort of been a running back in the wrong position. Russell Wilson will take off, but only if he thinks that's his best play. But he sort of does what Ben Roethlisberger, I used to love Roethlisberger for doing. Here, we'll connect it again. Roethlisberger, the Bills were going to take, but the Steelers took him one pick before the Bills did. And the Bills ended up with Lossman. But I loved Russell Wilson just for when they started comparing him, like describing him. I don't remember if anyone even said Doug Flutie or if that's just where my mind went to, but instantly right there, and he was going to be the backup for Matt Flynn. He was already one of my favorite players. The fact that he has won a Super Bowl now, and the fact that he's becoming better and better as each season goes on, and the fact that I always say that I love pure pocket passers, and I think that's what all quarterbacks should strive to be. My favorite quarterbacks of all time are Brett Favre, Russell Wilson, Doug Flutie, Donovan McNabb, guys who are not pure passers. Now, Donovan McNabb became one later on with still the running ability. But Russell Wilson, no, he probably won't ever throw for 4,000 or 5,000 yards. Probably will never throw 40 touchdowns. But his combined yardage, he might get there. And I guess that's all that really matters. But yeah, I'm loving what the Cowboys are doing, and they definitely have that air about them. But there's your team that should not make it and just might. What's this term Bill Simmons has coined for it? The nobody believes in us team. That is definitely the Dallas Cowboys right now. If not, then I mean, there's one of those teams. The Bills they don't really have that because people believe in them, and that's when they disappoint. Yeah, I really want to root for the Cowboys, but I don't think this is a good matchup for them because the Seahawks just stopped the run, and you got Tony Romo throwing against the Legion of Boom. It just not, and Russell Wilson will tear that defense, that overachieving defense, to shreds. So I don't know. I'm picking Seattle. I'm going to root for the Cowboys for a little bit. They're not going to break my heart because it pains me to even be rooting for them, especially in a year when the Bills are actually a team that look like they could be rooted for, even if they lose this weekend. But yeah, I'm going with. Yeah, I'm going to pick Seattle for this. Next up, we got the Redskins at the Cardinals. Now, here's going to be the weird pick. If, and this might be a big if it ends up that Carson Palmer is the starting quarterback of the Cardinals, I'm picking the Cardinals. If it's Drew Stanton as the starting quarterback, and I think he's actually officially out, then I'll pick the Cardinals. If it is Logan Thomas or Josh Johnson, I believe he's the guy they just signed off the practice squad. If either one of them is the starting quarterback, I'm picking the Redskins. I don't think the Redskins necessarily look very good. They look like a team that they have some of the pieces in place. They just... all of the breaks have gone against them. They're 1-4. They could be 2-3, 3-2 if a couple other plays go their way. They played really close to Philly. A couple breaks and maybe they're better off, but Logan Thomas, it's hard to... I'm not going to root against him, but it's hard to pick Logan Thomas to beat any professional football team right now, considering he was 1 of 8. And that one should have been an incompletion. He just got really lucky that Andre Ellington has finally turned into the running back everyone was hoping he was going to be. But yeah, so that's going to be my weird pick. It's dependent entirely on the starting quarterback. And I think for all intents and purposes, I think it's going to be Logan Thomas. So my pick will be the Washington Redskins. But if it's one of the other quarterbacks, I'll pick Arizona because they played pretty close up until the end of the game against Denver. And the Redskins just don't look that great. And who knows what Kirk Cousins is going to do. We got the injuries piling up on Arizona, but that hasn't stopped them so far, and I see no real reason to believe it ever will. Like, this team could be down to a bunch of practice squad players, and literally they have 54 players on the injured reserve, and I still think they could go 11-5 because there is some sort of voodoo curse on this team, a good one, and I don't know what the hell is going on. They're 3-1, and they should be 1-3. Easily, maybe even 0-4 with the injuries, with the with all this luck. And they're doing it, so good for them. The New York Giants at the Philadelphia Eagles. I'm tough. This is tough. I don't know who to pick. I really don't like the Eagles so far this year. And my brother's a Giants fan, and I hate picking them. So I don't really know what to go with. But I think I'm going to pick the Giants. I don't know if that makes it the upset pick. If I'm going by the line, it's Philly by 2.5. So I guess it kind of makes it an upset pick. I don't know. But yeah, so I'm going to go with the Giants because I like what the Giants have done the last 4 weeks. And plus, I'm really just rooting for chaos. I love chaos. Giants win this one, and the Cowboys go down, and you have a logjam of 3, 4, and 2 teams at the top of that division, which would just be hilarious. And even if the Cowboys win it, it's 5-1 and 2, 4, and 2 teams. It's just it's hilarious to me. So I'm rooting for the drama. Yeah, so I guess I'm not confident in this one because I honestly I don't know. I don't have any confidence in either one of these teams so far. The Giants have looked good, but it doesn't it I don't know. Is it sustainable? Who knows? Is anything sustainable? Who knows? Oh my God, I'm a terrible running quarterback. Oh my God, Vincent Jackson dropped that. You ruined my life. So that one's a tough one. And finally, the Monday night game. We got the 49ers at the Rams. 49ers are another team I really don't like. And Austin Davis is a player I'm kind of rooting for. 49ers, who knows what the hell is going to happen with McDonald. What's it? Alden Smith, he's still out. You got more reports coming out about the whole Ray McDonald thing and how he had, the 49ers security guy who also happens to be a San Jose police officer. He called him, and he was there when it went on, and then it was internal affairs or whatever. And then plus you got the whole Harbaugh thing. And it hasn't. They've won 2 straight games, and that hasn't gone away. So it's not going away for the rest of the season. They could go on a tear. They could finish the year 14-2, and those questions would still persist after every single game. It doesn't matter. But I don't think they're going to win every single game. And in fact, I don't think they're going to win this one. I'm going to go with St. Louis as my upset pick. Because, again, this is sort of my mentality now on Monday night games. I always get it wrong anyway, so why not pick against the team that I want to pick against? I have a hard time rooting for the 49ers because this whole Ray McDonald thing, Alden Smith, these guys, Alden Smith was domestic violence, right? Or was he something else? I don't remember what the hell he's suspended for. Ray McDonald, beat up his pregnant fiance, which actually makes what he did a lot worse than Ray Rice. And Ray Rice clean knocked his fiance out. So I really have a hard time, and I know there's no charges, and it's a little hypocritical because everyone keeps saying due process, and in my head all I'm thinking is, once charges are brought, then that list should be used. Greg Hardy should already just be suspended because he already got convicted. There's a court date set for Adrian Peterson. It looks like charges are going to be pressed. So, and Adrian Peterson admitted to smoking a little pot before taking a drug test while he was out on bail. It's just like, you're a dipshit. So his career, everyone keeps saying, is his career in Minnesota over? Yes. Because his career was probably over in Minnesota after this season, even if he ran for 1,500 yards. The fact that he's not going to play a single game this year, he's done. I can't say that. They have the court date for December 1st. It's actually sooner than people thought. Depending on how everything goes, if he does that, if he's found, not guilty, innocent, whatever it may be, he comes back and say the Vikings are sitting there right around 500, even a game under or a game over it, but right in the thick of things for a playoff spot, then maybe you bring Peterson back. That is not out of the realm of possibility if they are in the hunt for a playoff spot. So maybe his career in Minnesota isn't quite over yet. I still think after the year it's done. But I'm liking what Austin Davis is doing as the undrafted guy. The Rams should know if you got an undrafted quarterback and he's doing pretty well, leave him in. I think his numbers, I don't know for sure, but I think they're somewhat comparable to what Kurt Warner did, because Kurt Warner wasn't exactly a, high percentage passer or he definitely turned the ball over. So, he's the one who invented, the reason why he got all this offense is because of the greatest show on turf. That was the turning point right there. That's when teams started being like, hey, wait a second. Throwing for a ton of yards is a good thing. And that's why they had all of these. They had the scoring record, the yards record, all that stuff. You had Marshall Faulk. I believe he's already in the Hall of Fame. I believe that's true. I don't remember if he's in yet or if he's still, I believe if he's not in, it's just because he hasn't come up, but I'm pretty sure he's in. Isaac Bruce, I believe he should be going in. Torrey Holt might be going in. Kurt Warner should be going in. Orlando Pace is the left tackle. I believe he's in. I think he just went in. Is that what happened? I know Walter Jones just went in. I know a lot of these left tackles are going in. So that makes what? 5 of your 11 offensive starters that year are in the Hall of Fame or about to go in the Hall of Fame or should be in the Hall of Fame. That's the greatest show on turf. Changed. That's why we got 5,000-yard passers. That's why we've got Drew Brees. That's why we've got, the Patriots offense a few years ago. That's why we have all this. So if Austin Davis is looking pretty good, I'm sorry, are you holding that roster spot for Sam Bradford still? Is that a thing? Are we still holding out hope that maybe he'll finally break through? Because I think, and again, for all I know, he's starting in Buffalo next year, so I'm not going to badmouth him too bad. I think his time in St. Louis is over. I think that's fair to say. He didn't have a bad career. He just couldn't stay on the field. So I think his career in St. Louis should be over, and I think having Austin Davis, you should use that to your advantage and just be like, okay, well, we've got, it's not like when Peyton Manning left, you had nobody, like absolutely no one to sort of take his place, and you were just sort of really hoping Andrew Luck turned out to be as good as he is. You got Austin Davis. He's serviceable. They're 1-3. If my pick is correct, they're 2-3 after this week. Even if not, they've been in games too. Like, it's not like they've been getting blown out. They've been in games. They just blew that lead against Dallas. But now that we know what we know about Dallas, it's not a bad thing. So St. Louis isn't looking terrible. So I don't think it should shock anybody if they win this week. It's just I don't think a lot of people are going to pick St. Louis because it's St. Louis and it's San Francisco, and people are still under this preconceived notion that St. Louis is still, or San Francisco is still that dominant team that they've been for over the last 4 or 5 years or whatever it may be, and they're just not. They're pretty good. They'll probably still make the playoffs. They'll probably still be a 10-win team or so. I don't think that's out of the realm of possibility. 10 or 11 wins. But they're not going. No win is a guaranteed win. They're 3-2 for a reason. So, yeah, I really like St. Louis in this game, and I think they, I think that'll be my upset special. Is St. Louis. So again, going through the picks, I got the Bills over the Patriots. I've got the Jaguars over the Titans. I've got the Bucks over the Ravens. I've got the Broncos over the Jets. I've got the Lions over the Vikings, the Bengals over the Panthers, the Browns over the Steelers, the Packers over the Dolphins, Chargers over the Raiders, the Falcons over the Bears, Seahawks over Cowboys, the Redskins over the Cardinals if Logan Thomas is starting, and then the Cardinals over the Redskins if it's either Stanton or Palmer. I've got the Giants over the Eagles and my upset pick of the Rams over the 49ers. And who do we have on bye this week? It's what, the Saints? Saints and the Chiefs. Chiefs definitely need it because they need to regroup, and New Orleans desperately they needed this bye like a month ago. So, yeah, those are my picks. That's what I think is going to happen this week. Like I said, next week I'll just try to connect every single game to the Buffalo Bills. Hey, you know what? I'll save that. I bet I can do it, but I'm going to save that because when is their bye? When are the Bills on the bye? That's like week 8 or 9, I think. No, it's not week 8. Week 9, okay. So the Bills are on a bye that week. So I think that week, let's see, Saints, Panthers. Yeah, I can definitely do that. Bucks, Browns, I'll follow that. Texans, Eagles. Yeah, I can probably do that. Texans, Eagles. Yeah, I can probably do that. Jets, Chiefs definitely can do that in division. Bengals, Jaguars. Yes, I can do that. Paul Posluszny. Chargers, Dolphins. Yep, interdivision. Redskins, Vikings, yeah. Rams, 49ers again. Yeah, probably. Broncos, Patriots, definitely. Raiders, Seahawks, yeah. Ravens, Steelers, yeah. All right, so week 9, every single game I talk about, I will just put the Bills in there somehow, some way. And you guys may or may not stab me in the neck. That sounds like a plan. So, anyways, guys, thank you so much for watching. If you liked all of my rambling about the Buffalo Bills, if you liked all the interruptions for when I had to warm up a bottle or check on my daughter, please be sure to like this video. If you want to see more of these videos or more of me playing Pokemon or what have you, I might even start up another sports game. I did just get NBA 2K15. Maybe that's the thing I'll do. I don't know enough about basketball. Maybe that's not a good idea. But I got WWE 2K15. I should be picking that one up. That'll definitely happen. You know, or any other videos you guys any other games you want me to play. So let me know. There will be more games. It won't just be a sports channel here, I promise. But, ooh, look at that. Next week, Tuesday or Wednesday, whenever the hell the next video goes up, you get to see me as the Buccaneers clinch the division against the Panthers. So that'll be exciting. If they say I clinched the division already, they're lying. Yeah, okay, because 12 straight wins, and that was a loss to the Panthers. So, oh man, I got to work on dethroning the 49ers next. I need that 1 seed. But anyways, guys, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you guys next time.